Today on Boring Gear Reviews, a perfect distortion pedal. Let's get into the Electronic Audio Experiments Halberd V2. Massive thank you to Electronic Audio Experiments and Distro for sending me the Halberd V2. So obviously I didn't bury the lead. This pedal is amazing. I think in and of itself, in this contained package, it is perfect. There's nothing about this that I think should be changed or could be improved upon. The simplicity of it, the quality of the sounds you get from it, the enclosure, everything about it for me is absolutely perfect. This is a discrete transistor overdrive, and it is incredibly rich and dynamic. It's full of character. It can be very clangy. It can be very subtle. It can get really kind of hairy and almost fuzzy, where the low end is kind of exploding in place, and the high end is very kind of searing and clear without getting shrill or harsh. It does everything I want. And my apologies if I'm overselling it, but this thing is truly that good. I think I had it for a few hours before I messaged John and let him know exactly the same thing. I think this is outstanding. All right, so for controls, it is very simple as far as the layout is concerned, but it is also pretty deep. So first we have post, and this will set the kind of overall output of the pedal while it's on. And you can also use this to drive the front end of your amp harder, and it will change the characteristics of the distortion while it interacts with the rest of the knobs as well. Next up we have pre, and this kind of acts like the gain or distortion knob of the pedal, where at lower settings, a little more compressed, and then much less distortion. And then as you crank it up, it really kind of starts opening up and then exploding, especially in the last kind of eighth of a turn, something like that. And then the way these two work together, even though one is technically doing output, they kind of combine to form like a third way to control the gain. Next up we have tone, and it will do what you think it does, and it controls the tone. So you can roll it off for less high end, roll it up for more high end, and it's balanced extremely well. So if you find that your rig is a little brighter, you can roll it back and it won't get muddy or muffled. It just will tame some of that harshness. And if you find that it's a little more thin, you can roll it up. But then that also brings you to the depth control. And this you can kind of think of as like a low end EQ. So if you do find your rig is thin, or maybe the settings you've set thinner, you can roll it up and introduce like a lot more low end, but it doesn't get woofy. It stays defined and very clear. Now, obviously at higher gain settings, a lot of this will vary, but you have an immense amount of shaping opportunities with these two controls here. And if all that wasn't enough, we have a three-way toggle switch in the middle. In the upper position, we have Clang. So this will increase a little bit of the gain. It'll also add a lot more high end and a lot more like upper mid range. So you can get brighter, more clarity, more, Clang. All the way down, we have Deep, and this is like a much thicker type of tone, especially when you're boosting the gain on the pedal. So it gets a little woollier, a little fuzzier. And again, you can, still shape it, till your heart's content with these two EQ controls. In the middle, we have standard, and this is going to be a little lower gain than the other two. It has a little bit of a mid push, and it is the same setting from the Halberd V1. So in this, you get the Halberd V1 plus all these other options. And I'll say with this, I personally found no setting I didn't like. Everything sounds very different, and I can see where I would use this in a different context, given that situation. For today's demo, I am using my 2024 Partscaster Concierge and Bagley number 3, and this has Avedisian sawtooth pickups. From there, we're into the Universal Audio Apollo X6, and then as always, into the Soft-Tube JMP 2203 amp plugin. Okay, for this first clip, we're going to be in the Clang setting, so we're going to have a switch all the way up. We'll have the post at noon, pre is at 9, tone, we're going to have it like 10, and depth around 2 o'clock. At the end of the chain, we're going to have the Death by Audio Rooms for a little bit of subtle reverb. Midway through the clip, I'm going to engage the Ibanez DE7 delay for a little bit of like gritty echo. This is also one of my new favorite delays, so subscribe because I'll eventually be doing a video about this too. All right, so what we have here is like I'm going to say this over and over, is a perfect tone. It's dirty, but clear, and it is not muddy, it is not harsh, it's very bright. I get a lot of messages asking, oh, will XY pedal cut through the mix? Or how good is it at cutting through the mix? Now, obviously, in a recording studio setting, you're going to EQ after, potentially anyway. So you can kind of make anything cut through the mix, more or less. But on stage, obviously, you may not have that option all the time. This will cut through the mix, whatever situation you're in. Because you can shape the high and low separately, you can really balance, and it has the 3 voicing options. You can really kind of balance it perfectly. So yes, it'll cut through the mix. The biggest thing of note here for me was how dynamic it is based on my pick attack, my right hand playing. When you back off, it gets very loose and jangly. And then when you dig in, it compresses and bites, but it doesn't compress where it feels squashed. It just gets, tighter and more gain. And you'll notice the whole time that even though it feels loose and open, the actual sound of it is very concise. It's very tight. It's very focused. So you're not losing anything here. Like I said, it's perfect. Enjoy. All right, next up, we're going for a big heavy gain sound. So we're gonna have both post and pre almost maxed. It's, what is that, 4 o'clock or something like that. We're gonna be in the deep setting on the voice switch, so all the way in the bottom position. And we're gonna have the tone at 3 and the depth at noon. This is where we get into like almost fuzz territory, or maybe it is fuzz territory, where the low end is basically like exploding without anywhere to go. So it just kind of like crumbles right in place, but none of it's falling off. You're not losing any of that low end because it's sitting right there because of the compression. Super rad sound. And the high end is very saturated, but still very clear. It's a super aggressive sound. I will say in the last like eighth of a turn on these, you'll get a big squash, which is super cool. It's not the sound I wanted to show here, but the last kind of eighth of a turn is like real hyper aggressive, which is super fun. And this handles low notes, chords, lead lines extremely well. It all sounds very full and round and also defined, which are for the most part all the qualities you want in a high gain tone. Like you don't want to max the gain and then necessarily like lose all the clarity unless you're going for like a wall of sound type of thing. But for the most part, you want all of that aggression, all of that intensity, but you still want to hear what you're playing. And the Halberd V2 always lets you hear what you're playing. And lastly, we are going to be in the middle position of the voice setting. So we're in that standard position. We're going to have the post around 2 o'clock, the pre at 9, the tone at 2, and the depth at 10. We're bringing back the rooms from Death by Audio for a little bit of reverb at the end of the chain. And towards the end of the clip, I'm going to engage the Model FET from Electronic Audio Experiments. I've actually done a full demo of the Model FET, which is another amazing pedal. It was actually my first demo on this channel. Click the link right here and you can check that out too. So these are both going to be set at like a lower gain setting. And when they're combined, they just blend perfectly. I love this in the front of the chain. It works great anywhere, but I love this in front. And then, driving the Model FET, such a great sound. Neither one of them get lost. They're not fighting for frequency. They really kind of work perfectly together. In the beginning, when I'm just using the Halberd, I'm going to be doing some harmonics and light picking, and you'll hear how kind of clean and beautiful it is. And then I just start digging in a little harder and it sounds like I've boosted the gain, but I haven't. I'm just picking harder. To me, that is the sign of a great overdrive, is that it responds directly to my playstyle. So there's no fighting with it. It's really with you the entire time. Whether it's, before a drive, after a drive, with delay, with reverb, with whatever else you can throw at it, it's just constantly right there with you. Enjoy. And that'll do it for the Halberd V2 from Electronic Audio Experiments. Obviously, I said it at the top, this thing's amazing. It's perfect. For me, it's perfect. There's nothing that this isn't going to do for me. It cleans up, it gets gnarly, it's the perfect lower gain tone, it blends with other pedals, it looks cool, it's a small form factor, top jacks and DC, it's got, relay switching, so no click. It's got it all. I love this pedal. This is a million out of 10 for me. If you dig it too, check out the links in the description. You can find everything I'm using today. Once again, huge thanks to Electronic Audio Experiments and Distro, and I'll see you next video. Peace.